I am in St. Louis, and if you don't believe me, let me click the lighting here. Let's see. There it is. There's the famous arch. This is the view from my hotel room. How I ended up on the top floor overlooking at the arch, I may never know, but I love it. So, proof that I'm in St. Louis, but so you don't have to look at my dark face for this whole video, we'll turn around and get some actual decent lighting here. Okay, so here's my notepad. I have been touring St. Louis turnkeys on the Illinois side all day today, although I did see some on the Missouri side, but we'll get to that. I've been touring it all day. I met all the team members from the turnkey provider. I ran around with the turnkey provider the whole time. So I'm just going to share in an unorganized fashion all the highlights and everything I learned today. Later, I'll send property tour videos as properties become available. You'll get to see more details about the rehabs, pictures, videos, all that kind of stuff. But this is just the top level information about this provider and the things that I learned. Now, you heard me say that most of these properties are on the Illinois side. I did see some Missouri side properties today, and this provider does occasionally have some properties over there. But let's talk about the Illinois side where most of these properties are. A lot of people have not wanted to buy in Illinois for two primary reasons. Number one, Illinois has notoriously high property taxes. And number two, it's a tenant-friendly state. So I'm going to address both of those right now so we can skip to the fun stuff. Okay, let's start with the tenant-friendly part of this. One thing that I learned about this, now keep in mind, I live in California, which is probably the most tenant-friendly state in the nation, arguably. So I'm used to that level of it, like an extreme level of tenant-friendly. So it was interesting today to learn that there are less extreme versions of tenant-friendly. One of which being that, and I didn't know that this was a thing, California as a state, the whole freaking state is as tenant-friendly. North California, Southern California, all of those. Illinois is a little bit different. It's actually county by county. So Cook County, where Chicago is incredibly tenant-friendly. It might as well be California. I don't know what county Springfield's in, but Springfield, for example, whatever county that is on the far extreme of that, where it's actually more of a landlord-friendly county. It may not be officially landlord-friendly, but it is much more landlord-friendly. Evictions can happen immediately with no problem. And then where I was today is St. Clair County. And that is kind of middle of the road. It's not as bad as Chicago, but it's not as easy as where Springfield is. So it's a middle of the road. So I was shocked. I didn't know that this could vary county by county, but it does in Illinois. Another thing about Illinois that I didn't realize, I'm looking down at my notes to make sure I tell you guys everything, is whereas in California, landlords just really don't have a lot of rights. There's very few of them. Illinois, that's not the case. It's not that the landlords don't have rights. They do have rights, but the courts and the cities and everybody make it much more difficult to implement those rights. So like if you don't cross your T's and dot your I's exactly, so the property managers need to know how to do this, it only takes one missed dot of an I to get the thing thrown out, for it to be a problem, for it to not go through to the courts. It's just a higher maintenance issue, but really that's on the property manager, not so much you. So that was something else I didn't know. So that's encouraging. And then I wanted to know, like, what are general eviction times, cost, all of that, because those are the things that whether a state is landlord friendly or tenant friendly affects. So he told me that in normal times, pre-COVID, normal eviction times start to finish were 6 to 8 weeks. Honestly, I would have thought it was worse. Now, keep in mind, if you're up in Chicago or Cook County, it's going to be very different. But in St. Clair County, where these properties are, 6 to 8 weeks. Right now, start to finish, it's 3 months, give or take, because they have such a backlog in the courts from all the COVID evictions and back rents and all that kind of stuff. So when you do that, there is a $750 court fee. So you're pretty much going to have to pay that on most of the evictions. What you may not have to pay, and they said you won't have to pay in most cases, it happens pretty rarely, is if the sheriff finally goes out there to move the people out, because oftentimes apparently they'll get the people out before the sheriff has to get involved. The city has like a crew that has to go out there and get the stuff, and they did one recently where it was $1,200 and one recently that was $700. So that's worst case scenario. So worst case scenario, you can still get the eviction through, and it may cost you just under $2,000. Not optimal and more expensive than a lot of the landlord-friendly states, but honestly, not nearly as bad as California, and not as bad as I would have suspected for a tenant-friendly state. So that's fairly doable. Before COVID, this property manager was managing about 300 properties, and they had 5 evictions. So not terrible. They do things like cash for keys, all of that. They will try to avoid the eviction process if they can get the tenant out without eviction. But he said right now with COVID, they actually really want to do the eviction because now the state is offering grants. So you're going to get your money pretty fast as a landlord because it's state money thanks to COVID. That's temporary, obviously, so I don't want to base everything off of that. But right now, you're pretty much covered if there's an eviction, which is great. And of all the eviction cases that they did in 4 years, they only lost 1 case. And I guess that was kind of a freak of nature fluke, something about the roof. I'm not sure exactly what. So all in all, from the tenant-friendly side, yes, it's not a landlord-friendly state like a lot of states are, but it's also not as extreme as California, and it honestly sounds pretty doable. So I have to give it props for that. Again, remembering that this is county by county. So, property taxes. Oh boy, yay. So a few things to know on this. So properties on the Missouri side are flat out going to be more expensive than the properties over on the Illinois side. So you're going to see a pretty notable price difference in properties, and this goes for primary home buyers, to help kind of make up for those taxes. So yes, you're still paying more in taxes, but you are going to pay less for the property. All of the properties from this provider either met the 1% rule or far surpassed it once you get into the C properties. So the properties are cheaper, and essentially the cash flows end up being about the same as the Missouri side because, again, you're paying less for the house, higher property taxes, whereas over there, lower property taxes, more for the house. So it tends to equal out. More importantly, or somewhat important, is an example of a tax comparison, because the other reality is that the taxes are higher, but they may not be as drastically higher as people think. The largest spread, so if you're comparing apples to apples, like a C-class property in Missouri to a C-class property on the Illinois side, the largest tax spread is in the C neighborhood properties. The B neighborhood properties don't have quite that spread. It's not as high. So an example of C-class neighborhoods, Glasgow Village is on the Missouri side. Their annual taxes are about $800 a year. In Cahokia, over on the Illinois side, also C-class, those property taxes are going to be $1,500 to $2,000 a year. So worst case, it's a $1,200 difference, which is $100 a month. Again, it'd be more fun to have that in your pocket, but you're probably going to balance that out with a lower mortgage also. And that's really kind of worst case scenario. So it could be a lot less of a difference as well. And then the B to B neighborhoods are more similar on the tax front. Okay. Also, property taxes, I asked how those work. They are not based on the sale price. There's, whoever determines the taxable amount or whatever. The taxes on the Illinois side are reassessed every 4 years. And this provider is actually working directly with a company right now who they're basically going to take on contesting any property tax increase on your behalf. It's not in place right now, but they're actively working on it, and they want to offer that to you guys later. Okay, let's see. I feel like I had more notes on the taxes. I don't see any right here, though. Okay, so let's move on. So, in no particular order, property management. I was talking about that a little while ago with the eviction. One thing I love about this company that I've never seen in a turnkey company before is the property manager himself. That company is technically a third-party company, but he actually got his start through this provider. And of the 450 properties that he manages, 400 are from this provider. So while it's technically third-party, it's pretty stinking in-house. But also, the thing that I've not seen with any other provider, in-house, actually working for this provider, is what they call a rental manager. So you have your property manager as normal, but you also have an in-house rental manager to oversee that. So if anything is going on, if there's any confusion, any questions, they have a weekly meeting, literally, the rental manager and the property manager, where they go over any properties that are having challenges. They work together to do all this stuff. So that rental manager is working on behalf of the turnkey provider to help ensure that things are going smoothly. In addition to that, look, I got so excited about that, I got choked up and swallowed air. In addition to that, this provider is a very small outfit. It very much had a very tight family feel, which I love. There are 3 main people in the office, not including the rental manager and all the contractors and all that. But those 3 people also stay in touch on the property management side. So unlike most turnkey providers who it kind of feels like they just kind of drop you off, after you close on your property and it's like, good luck, enjoy our property manager who probably sucks. Cool. Okay, this provider stays very much in touch with the property management. So it stays a cohesive experience for you. They're not going to leave you just because you closed on the property. They're going to help you on the property management side. They're always checking in with each other. The whole thing warmed my heart. Not going to lie. Property management fees, I'll be able to send you guys a detailed fee sheet in terms of all of the fees that they charge. What are the tenant screening things, all that. But just generally, the C-class properties are a 10% property management fee a month, and the B-class is 8%. So you actually get a difference there. I'll get back to the rehab quality. I want to talk about prices just generally so you guys know, because I kind of segued into B and C. They primarily sell properties in B and C neighborhoods, and then within those, of course, B plus, B minus, whatever, C plus, C minus. So your C-class properties, are you ready for this? This is very exciting. The price ranges on those are $55,000 to $90,000. Oh yes, there are turnkeys again in the $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 range. Haven't seen those in years. And then the B-class properties are going to be $90,000 to $180,000. I have a little sheet here of the properties we saw today, just to give you guys some ideas. The C-class properties, there are some $57,000 properties renting for $850 and $875, some $71,000 properties renting for $900 and $950, $56,000 that's renting for $850, a $65,000, $57,000 and $56,000 renting for $850, $800 and $825. That's a big price to rent ratio. Hello. And then the B-class properties I saw are all at the 1% rule or higher. They're still working on some of the prices of those, but generally ranging from $120 to $180, rents $1,200 to $1,800. So just to give you an idea of what's going on there. All of the B-class properties that I saw today could easily be sold to primary home buyers. If that tells you anything about the neighborhood and just the properties themselves, they were big. I could easily see primary home buyers. That's fantastic for exit strategy. Section 8, yes, they can do Section 8. All of these properties come with tenants, by the way. I'll kind of get back to that, but they come with tenants. Nobody's really offering that these days. But if you specifically want Section 8 or specifically don't want Section 8, they can accommodate that, whether it's, placing the appropriate tenant or finding you a house with the appropriate tenant. 90-day scope of work warranty, pretty standard for everybody. If you get a low appraisal, he said in the history, so the appraisals come in really well over here. It's only happened less than 10 times, and it's usually on the C-class properties, but even when those were coming in low, it was usually only by a couple thousand. It was quite unbelievable, and I've never heard of that good of stats for appraisals. But if an appraisal comes in low, they will either lower the price themselves and give it to you for the appraised value, or if it's some drastic crazy thing, they will let you switch properties, no problem. Okay, back to my notes here. Told you this was going to be unorganized. Rehab-wise, again, I'll send you videos of everything. It was some of the cleanest rehabs I've seen. A lot of times they'll kind of have paint speckled around or whatever. I didn't see any of that on these properties. I got to see pre-rehab, mid-rehab, post-rehab properties, which is great, the full gamut. They do LVP flooring in the main areas. They do carpet in the bedrooms typically. It was a really nice carpet actually, dark color, so it's more friendly for rentals. It was not cheap rental grade. It's not the most expensive carpet, but it was pretty durable, which is nice. They don't do actual granite countertops. They do faux granite. I actually thought it was granite. It looked just like granite. Oh, and one reason they do carpet in the bedrooms, a lot of tenants out here like it because it gets so cold in the winter. They want that insulation versus having hardwoods in the bedroom, which I totally get. So they put new HVAC systems in just about every house that they do. The only exception to that rule is if the HVAC is less than 5 years old. So most of these are coming brand new. All of the CapEx items are going to have 10 plus years of life. The ones I saw today, like the roofs, for example, they were either nearly brand new roofs or they were getting completely redone. There was no real middle ground. It wasn't like a 10-year-old roof type of thing. So as I mentioned, these properties all come with tenants, but they are going to be marketed pre-rehab. So if you've followed the turnkey thing along the years, it used to be where a property wouldn't be marketed until the rehab was done, tenants were in, it was going to close with tenants. It eventually shifted where properties were getting marketed pre-rehab, but then you would wait for the rehab to be done and the tenants to be placed. Most recently, as you know, with Birmingham and what's going to be the case with Kansas City, the properties are getting marketed after the rehab or as the rehab's finishing, but they're being sold without tenants. So now this provider, the properties, when you see them, are going to be pre-rehab. You're going to wait for the rehab to be finished. They are going to place tenants, and then you're going to close. So you are getting tenants with these properties. Praise Jesus, because we haven't had that in a while. A lot of turnkey providers are not offering that anymore. So that takes a whole hunk of risk out. Rehab times. The B-class properties tend to take 30 days max. It can also take less. And the C-class properties tend to take 2 to 3 weeks. That's great. So even though you're gonna go under contract for the property pre-rehab, you're actually not really waiting that long. Honestly, it'll take lenders that long to do their thing anyways. So like today is March, middle of March, and anything that is starting rehab now, they're expecting to be able to have tenants by May 1st or June 1st, depending on the extent of the rehab. Some of them were massive gut jobs, so those will take a little bit longer. But all in all, pretty short rehab times. I saw so many of the contractors today, and the rehab qualities were really legit. Like I was pretty impressed. This provider does not offer Berkeys. Sorry. Is that the bulk of it? Let's see. They do have a lender, and they believe that this lender's rates are probably going to be lower than Graham and Aaron's and everybody, so they can give you a preferred lender. They can lend to LLCs. These are DSCR loans, so if you either don't qualify with your income or you need a loan for your LLC, they can accommodate that. He believes he has access to portfolio loans. I'll confirm that when I find out. And they do have lenders. If you go for those C-class properties that are $60,000 or less, typically your standard conventional mortgage won't work for that. They have lenders who can do that. So that's fantastic. I think that is it. So, yep, that's all I have. So, again, I'm in St. Louis. That is my just general feedback. A couple things for me personally, because this is what I love about these trips, is I learn something new every day. Is number one, I'm not nearly as intimidated by the property taxes and tenant-friendly issues as I assumed I would be, or as I assumed to be true. These properties were so good and the numbers were so good on them. Really, your cash flow is not going to be any less because of the property taxes, and the eviction stuff really doesn't seem all that dramatic. And the property manager seems very experienced. I'll again give you more information on him. But it's all in the management. So that is a big component of it. This property manager, I would say, probably feels the most established to me of all the providers I've talked to lately. So for what that's worth. And then the other thing was just, I think just the properties. I was really impressed both with the properties and the rehabs and the provider. This tight-knit family feel. This guy has been doing real estate for a very long time. He went through the whole 2008 crash, lost everything, and built it all the way back up. Like, he's that good. And he was great to work with, very knowledgeable. Everybody was very friendly. This is going to be a very great buying experience, I think, because you're going to have everyone's personal cell phone numbers. These are not the providers who just don't email you back or whatever. They're very in tune, very in touch. They're all very experienced at what they do. One quick thing, I can't remember if I said in the beginning, he does get properties on the Missouri side. Typically C-class. Glasgow Village is one that we went through today. I really want him to get more properties there. I really liked it. But there are some other C-class assets there. So if you're just absolutely dead set on Missouri side, let me know, because I can put you on the list. I don't have a list yet, but I can make a list. So that's kind of my summary. I really thought I was going to leave today with kind of like I'll show your properties to people. I don't really expect anyone to buy them, but honestly, I have a lot more faith in everything now, and I was really impressed with everything I saw, and I think the quality of this turnkey provider may be one of the best out there. So my vote is to not worry so much about the taxes and the tenant-friendly stuff. They got that covered. No problem. 1%, you're going to meet it or beat it easily, and the properties were fantastic. And it's really cool to be back in St. Louis. I haven't been back here since last summer. So I'm back here. It was great to tour properties again. Great to meet a new provider. And I will send you guys updates and other stuff as I get it. So do you want one more view of the arch? I think that you do. Let's see. Where's this bad boy? Yeah, there it is. So over and out from St. Louis.